Hello, this is Mr. Frank, and welcome to Learning Target 8F Day 1. I can graph transformations on a coordinate plane. Here's where we are in the unit. We're about halfway through and starting a new learning target. So let's get to it with some vocabulary. We'll start with some visual vocabulary. So a reflection. Reflection, think about a reflection here. I show you the Mustang Pride logo. It's a mirror image. You notice how this is a mirror image, how these words, the letters are backwards. And the Mustang Pride is a mirror image of the first one. So think about a mirror when you think about reflection, and the definition of it is that it creates a mirror image. A rotation is where you turn something. Think about a spinner in a board game where the whole spinner turns. That's the spinner from the game of life. And the definition of rotation is turns an image. And translation, if I take the Mustang Pride logo and I push it over there, I move it over there, that's a translation. So think about it as moving an image or pushing an image, and you can think about this guy pushing. So why don't you pause here, write down these definitions, and then we'll come back. All right, welcome back. So we have those definitions, and we're going to focus today on reflection. So we'll do that. Oh, look at this beautiful reflection. We've got a mountain, it's reflecting in the lake. That certainly is a mirror image, right? And here, these footprints, actually a mirror image of each other as well. So that would be an example of a reflection. So let's identify a reflection. You tell me whether the red figure is a reflection of the blue figure. So here's an example. What do you think? Well, if you said yes, it's a reflection, you'd be right. So look at this. I can put a line down the middle. That line would be a mirror. Think about that line as a mirror. And we see an exact reflection of the red image, which is reflection of the blue image. How about these two? Is the blue image a reflection of the red image? And it's not, because you can't draw a line and reflect that red image to be the blue image. So that's not a reflection. So let's talk about reflections and what it takes to identify a reflection. So I have a shape here on this side, I have a mirror line, and I have a reflection here. And what makes this perfect reflection is I can take any point from the shape and I can measure the distance to the mirror, and that's the exact distance in the reflection from the mirror. So the distance of any point in the shape needs to equal the distance from the shape to the mirror needs to equal the distance from the reflection to the mirror line. So let's say I take a point right here. Let's draw that point. This orange line is the same distance as this gray line. So those points are reflecting of each other. And in fact, the whole shape is a reflection, using this as the mirror line. So let's talk about reflecting on a coordinate plane or a graph. So we have a quadrilateral, four-sided image. We'll call it A, B, C, D. That's right here in blue, A, B, C, and D. And it's reflected in the y-axis. When I say reflected in the y-axis, it means the y-axis is the mirror. So think about that. So the distance between A to the mirror needs to be the same distance as A prime to the mirror. So we need to write the coordinates of each vertex of the quadrilateral. The vertex, those are the points. So let's see. So I have the original coordinates already mapped out here. So A is -1 and 1, B is -3 and 1, etc. So let's figure out the image. So we have A prime. A prime would be 1, 1. So we'll map that. A prime is 1, 1. B prime, what do you think? B prime, so we go 1, 2, 3. We do X first, then we do Y, so that's 3, 1. C prime is 4, 3. And D prime is 2, 4. When I say prime, what that means is you typically use this little symbol here to represent the mirror image of the coordinate. So the image of A would be A prime. So that, do you notice anything about these numbers? Let's see, the Y values, are they the same? Yeah, the Y values are always the same. How about the X values? What do you notice there? I have a negative sign here, -1 and a 1, -3 and a 3, -4 and a 4. So that the sign changes. So to reflect points in the y-axis, you actually multiply the x-coordinate by -1 to get that done. So take a look again at that. So -2 would become 2, because if I multiply -2 by -1. Negative times a negative is a positive. I get 2. So let's look at this one, reflecting on a coordinate grid. Shape A is reflected in the x-axis to make shape C. So you see the mirror now is right here. The mirror is the x-axis. So let's take points E and F and E prime and F prime. So E is -3, 2. F is -2. I'm sorry, I did that wrong. -2, 2, and -3, 2 for E. So if I want to translate that through reflecting, I am going to now look at E prime right here, and that's -3, -2, and F prime is -2, -2. Now what do you notice? The X values are the same. What about the Y values? You multiply that, the 2 by -1 to get to -2. So there's a similar rule here. So to reflect points in the x-axis, you multiply the y-coordinate by -1. So why don't you capture that in your notes? You'll see in your note guide or Edpuzzle that you can capture that. So go ahead. And now let's look at reflecting this triangle. We have a triangle PQR. We want to reflect it in the x-axis. So that means the x-axis is our mirror. So what are the coordinates of the vertices? So here we just need to figure out the coordinates, but I have an image for you so you can see what it looks like. We know how to find all of the original coordinates, so P would be 1, 3. And P prime, since X is our mirror, we're going to keep the same X values and we'll multiply all the Y values by -1. So you can represent it with this rule. So if you are reflecting in the x-axis, the image will be x and then -y. So we can do that for each of our points. And you'll notice we go from 1, 3 to 1, -3 because we're multiplying our y value by -1. And you see what our q prime and our r prime numbers are as well. So that's how we would capture the coordinates of a vertices of a triangle that is reflected. So let's test your knowledge. Answer the following. Which shape is a reflection of A in the x-axis? Which shape is a reflection of E in the y-axis? And what is the rule to figure out the coordinates when you reflect in the y-axis? So pause here and answer those questions and then come back. All right, welcome back. So let's go over these. So which shape is a reflection of A in the x-axis? So that means x is our mirror. So C is a reflection of A in the x-axis. And which shape is a reflection of E? Here's E in the y-axis. So Y is our mirror. Oh, and guess what? C is a reflection of E in the y-axis. And what is the rule to figure out the coordinates when you reflect in the y-axis? So that means the y-axis is your mirror. And what do you have to multiply by -1? Well, I hope you said x. I hope you said you multiply x by the x coordinate by -1. So let's look at another definition here, lines of symmetry. So a figure has a line of symmetry if half of the figure is a mirror image of the other half. So let's look at this seashell. This is the line of symmetry because this right half is exactly the same as this left half if I reflect it. So you could think about this line as being the mirror, just like we talked about. So every time you can place a mirror in an object and it looks exactly the same on both sides, that's a line of symmetry. So this seashell has one line of symmetry. And look at this starfish. Oh, that's pretty cool. There are 5 lines of symmetry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now I didn't continue counting because this is one full line. I wouldn't count this as 2 lines or this as 2 lines. It's each one line. So those are all lines of symmetry. So that is 5 lines of symmetry. So on your own, how many lines of symmetries does this square have? And think a little bit. It's the lines, just like with the starfish, can go in multiple directions. So think about how many lines of symmetry are here. And then also think of at least one item that has one or more lines of symmetry. And I want you to bring these two back to class tomorrow. So pause and complete this. All right, so by now, hopefully you paused and you've completed this, and bring this back to class tomorrow. And as always, why don't you capture what did you learn or were reminded of, and any questions that you have. Have a great night. Hope you enjoyed it.